Hello, everyone. Now, in the 1600s, artists were obsessed by something that they could not see or they could not touch. They were obsessed by something that was very subtle. Now, obviously, it wasn't the human body, and it wasn't the geometry, it wasn't the shadows, it wasn't the sketching. They had mastered all of these things, but they were obsessed by something that went beyond that. Now, we're talking about connection. They were obsessed by connection. And if we think about the creation of Adam by Michelangelo, who in 1512 painted on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel this incredible masterpiece, it represents the hand of God and the hand of Adam and their index fingers that are almost touching. And in this masterpiece, Michelangelo wanted to portray something that was so potent, so powerful, in this space between the two fingers almost touching. In this space, it encapsulated something so incredibly powerful. A connection takes place within this space before contact is even established. I think that the question that we need to be asking ourselves more often is, how do we pay more attention to what happens in this space? This impactful space before contact is actually made. Welcome, everyone, to Contact Beyond Touch. So if connection is already created before the contact is made, what's happening in that space? Something is moving inside of us, and it's moving inside of us all of the time, and it's driving us to create something in our emotional state, because what's driving us and what's moving us inside are emotions. Our emotions are happening all the time, all throughout the day, in every experience that we have. Our emotions are driving us, and something really powerful takes place. We emit something, and others perceive it, and it becomes our body language. And our body language then takes on a visible form. Nice to meet you all. My name is Kris Reichert. My background is in show business. So I was an MTV VJ. I was a television presenter, a radio host. I am now a communications coach. I'm an MC and also an EQ educator. Everything I've done in my life and in my career path, it's always been driven by some form of communication. And I've had people ask me in the past, well, why did you choose this career path? And I think that it all goes back to when I was a child growing up in Canada. We had this basement, and in the basement, we had this structure above our washing machine. And there was a big hole in the structure, and that's where a television was supposed to go. We never put a television there, so what I would do when I was about 8 or 9, I would climb up on top of the washing machine, and I would stand behind this big space, and I would broadcast the news to my family, to the neighbors, to anybody I could get to come into the basement. I'd say, come on in. And I'd give them the news, and I'd talk about the gossip or the weather or what had happened in the neighborhood. And really what I realized is that I loved to communicate, and I needed to say a lot. I had a lot to say, and this was my outlet to be able to speak, to be able to be heard. Then let's fast forward years ahead. I moved to Europe. I went on to become an MTV VJ and a television presenter and a radio host. But then I started understanding something that went far and beyond just communicating. I started understanding that my work on television, my work on the radio, wasn't anymore just speaking and being listened to. Because really what I started understanding is being a good communicator, you needed to create a connection. You can't communicate unless you create a connection, because there's a bridge between who's speaking and who's listening. And there's an exchange that takes place, and within that exchange there is a connection that gets locked in. Your emotional state is exchanged with the person that you're speaking to. Their emotional state is exchanged with you. And through this becomes this wonderful bridge, this wonderful circular activity of connection. There was an intelligence driving that communication. There was an intelligence driving this connection that I started tapping into. And it became so much more apparent because that connection and that intelligence was emotional. It was when I created an emotional connection with the people I was speaking to. That's when the true magic started happening. Now, what is emotional intelligence? It's great to say emotional intelligence, it just sounds nice. But what does it mean? What does it really mean? Emotional intelligence is our ability to recognize what we're feeling, recognize what another person is feeling, being able to respond to our emotional state and to another person's emotional state with awareness. It's almost like awareness plus choice. So it's the difference between reacting impulsively and responding intentionally, right? Reacting impulsively and responding intentionally. This, in essence, is emotional intelligence. It's harnessing the ability to understand what's going on inside of us, what's going on inside another person, and react in a way that's using awareness. Now, if we take a look at IQ, which is information, it's your ability to understand, to comprehend, and to retain information. If we take a look at EQ, which is your emotional intelligence, it's your ability to identify, to manage, and to respond accordingly using emotional intelligence. So when does contact with the client actually begin? Contact begins before the hands even touch, in fact, because what is a client bringing in to your studio? They're bringing everything that's gone on that day, and they're bringing it in with them. And they're fully charged with their emotional state. And the same thing goes with you. What's going on with your emotions? What happened that morning? What's happening that day? What are you thinking about? What's going on later in the day? Do you have an important appointment? What are you bringing? What are you exchanging? And this is when the connection has already occurred, because your client has already, through their amygdala in their brain, they've already decided on whether you are good or not at what you practice, because your body language is already showing, and it's externalizing what your emotional state is. So if your body language is showing you're nervous, they're going to be picking up on that instantly. Contact begins with presence. The client immediately perceives your tone of voice. How is it? Is it grounded? Is it warm? Is it soothing? Is it inviting? Or is it high-pitched and a little bit agitated and, oh, let's just get this over fast. I'm in a rush. I've got things to do, and I've got to be, there's my hair appointment later on. They're going to pick up in your tone of voice. Your posture. Your posture says so much. Your posture shows confidence. It shows credibility. And it shows if you feel you're ready for this. Your intention. Now, this is huge. Intention is your awareness. What are you bringing to this moment? You have the possibility to create an experience in this moment based on your intention. And then, can I trust this person? I mean, that sounds really dramatic, but it's essentially what's happening when a client enters the room. Their amygdala in their brain is basically there. It's in all of our brains, and it's there to help us understand if we're in danger. So it's immediately picking up on all of the signals all around us. Am I in danger? Is this a safe situation? So their amygdala brain, the part of their brain that's the amygdala, is going to be picking up on, is this a safe environment? And in milliseconds, something happens. It's called the neuroception. The neuroception in their brains in milliseconds is going to be understanding if the environment is safe and if they can trust you. Nonverbal communication. Did you all know that 93% of communication that occurs is nonverbal? We're transmitting so much, we're communicating so much without ever saying a word. The body reads coherence before the mind does. Now this is really interesting because the body picks up on everything before the mind even does, in those milliseconds. The essential aspects of emotional intelligence are self-awareness, self-regulation, and empathy. So self-awareness is recognizing one's own emotional state. Let's think about that in an example. Okay, so let's pretend that you've woken up on the wrong side of the bed. You're irritated. You didn't sleep well last night. Then somebody says something to you, and it's really irritating. It really irritates you, and you think, oh, why did they have to say that? That didn't make me feel very good. I'm really upset about that. And you're completely irritated. But then you say to yourself, wait a second. I didn't sleep well last night. I kind of woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I'm not feeling my best. I think I'm irritable. I think I'm going to react poorly to something because actually what they said wasn't that bad after all. If you're able to recognize it's not them, but it's you, maybe it's your own state that's a bit off, then that's actually self-awareness. It's your ability to recognize what's going on inside of you instead of always maybe blaming somebody else or blaming the scenario. It's taking accountability for what's going on in you. So that's self-awareness. And then we have self-regulation. So let's take the same example where you're highly irritated by something that somebody told you. And then instead of reacting and instead of saying, oh yeah, well, you're going to actually take a second, you're going to think about it, and you're going to change your tone. You're going to soften that tone, soften those words. You're going to understand that maybe what they're saying is actually something really nice, but you just took it the wrong way. And so you're going to respond in a way that would have been different if you were irritated. And this is self-regulation. It's the ability to regulate your emotional state instead of reacting poorly. And then you have empathy. And what is empathy? Empathy is when you understand your emotional state, you understand the other person's emotional state, and you're able to put yourself in their shoes. You're able to understand that what they're going through is something that you're able to go through because there is this exchange in emotional recognition of their state compared to yours. So there's a connection in empathy that takes place. And basically in emotional intelligence, it's when there is this exchange of shared experience where you can put yourself into the state of another person. Now, I wanted to just for a minute talk about my work as a speaker because I've been on many stages and I've spoken in front of many different types of audiences. And no matter what, on every stage and whatever the audience is in front of me, there is always something that takes place that is quite magical. Something transpires that is so magical because there is this exchange of an emotional state. So when I'm on stage, if I'm nervous, if I'm a little bit upset, if I'm excited, if I'm agitated, my audience is going to feel that. I am bringing something to the room, and you are all bringing something to the room. I'm going to pick up on what you're feeling, you're going to pick up on what I'm feeling. And we can apply this to every industry that we work in. This connection takes place no matter what. And this exchange takes place no matter what. And this is where if we spend enough time to really recognize this, we can understand the magic that we can create in what we're doing every day with every type of audience and with every type of client. In my work as a coach, because I am also a communications coach, and I always say what's important is to share your emotional state, because when you're on stage and you share a state with your audience, if you say, I'm really nervous today, I have never been on stage before, but I'm really excited because thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for listening to me. And whoever's listening to you is going to get excited with you because they're going to be like, oh, yay, I can be a part of this. If you say, look, I'm frustrated today because this morning I woke up and this thing happened. So you can also be transmitting the fact that you're frustrated. And if you say that to your audience, they're going to be like, you know what? That's happened to me before too. I totally get her. And you create this empathetic moment, right? Because there's that relational aspect that comes forth. There's that, yeah, I get her because I've been there. And if you can create that all of a sudden, there's your connection right then and there. And that way, anything you're doing, whether it's a treatment, whether you're on stage, whether you're in a boardroom, whether you have a meeting, whether you're on Zoom, it doesn't matter. If you share your emotional state, you're going to be creating empathy and you're going to create a connection no matter what. There is an emotional exchange that takes place always. So in this world, if you're going to be creating an environment where your clients feel absolutely safe, they feel heard, they feel trust, that creates value, and they're going to come back for that. And that's where exponentially this grows and allows your business to strengthen if you are using that presence and that emotional intelligence in what you're doing. If you'd like to get in touch with me, this is my website, krisreichert.com. I'm starting a new cohort for this specific industry, so if you'd like to work with me, please be in contact. It was wonderful being here with you all today. I thank you all so much for attending this talk. Contact Beyond Touch. It's been a pleasure to be with you here today. I'm Kris Reichert, and we'll see you soon. Have a great continuation of your day. Thanks very much.